The vast amphitheater of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any human structure ever built. Thousands of alien representatives sat in tiered sections that rose hundreds of meters high, each species in their own environmentally controlled chambers. The air hummed with translation devices and the subtle vibrations of thousands of different communication methods. Dr. Marcus Donovan stood alone on the central platform, a solitary human figure before the towering council arbiter. His heart pounded against his ribs, but years of diplomatic training kept his face calm. He represented not just Earth's government, but all of humanity, the newest and most scrutinized species to discover faster-than-light travel. Species 4291, designation human, announced the arbiter, a tall, thin being with iridescent skin that shifted colors as it spoke. You stand before the Galactic Council to formally request recognition and trading rights within council space. Present your case. Marcus stepped forward, acutely aware that every movement was being analyzed by thousands of alien minds. Some species present had been spacefaring for millennia before humans discovered fire. Esteemed council members, he began, his voice carried and perfectly translated by the chamber's advanced systems. Humanity comes before you not as conquerors, but as explorers and potential allies. Our civilization has only recently mastered faster-than-light travel, but we bring unique perspectives and adaptability that could benefit all council species. A low murmur rippled through the assembly. From the central podium, 3 senior council representatives leaned forward. The one in the middle, a massive being with a crystalline exoskeleton, clicked its mandibles, in what Marcus recognized as skepticism. Your species has an unusual history of internal conflict, the crystalline being stated. Our preliminary observations suggest humans are dangerously unpredictable. Some council members question whether your kind is ready for the responsibilities of interstellar citizenship. Marcus had expected this challenge. Earth's history was indeed violent, but he knew that was only part of the story. Council representative, humanity's capacity for conflict is matched by our capacity for cooperation and growth, Marcus replied, activating a holographic display. In just 3 centuries, we evolved from burning fossil fuels to developing clean fusion. In one human lifetime, we went from primitive computers to quantum neural networks. The display showed Earth's rapid technological development, focusing on medical advances, environmental restoration projects, and the unified space program that eventually led to their FTL breakthrough. What truly defines humanity is not our conflicts, but how quickly we learn from them, Marcus continued. We adapt faster than any species your scouts have encountered. This is our strength and our offering to the galactic community. A different council member, a being composed of what appeared to be luminous gas contained in a hovering mechanical sphere, moved forward. Adaptation without wisdom leads to chaos, the gaseous being warned, its voice surprisingly melodic. We have seen promising species destroy themselves or others because they develop too quickly, without philosophical maturity. Before Marcus could respond, movement caught his eye from the lower tiers of the amphitheater. A delegation of tall insectoid beings had risen from their seats. Their carapaces were deep blue, almost black, with intricate patterns etched across the surface. Marcus immediately recognized them from his briefings, the Morrigan Collective, a hive-minded species known for their advanced biotechnology and isolationist policies. The Morrigan Collective wishes to speak, the arbiter announced, surprise evident in its shifting skin colors. The lead Morrigan stepped forward, compound eyes reflecting the light in fractured patterns. We find the human species fascinating, it said, mandibles clicking rhythmically. Their adaptive capabilities align with evolutionary principles our collective has long studied. We propose a direct cultural exchange with humanity, outside normal council protocols. The announcement sent visible shock through the chamber. The Morrigan rarely engaged with other species, let alone newcomers. Marcus felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. This was an unexpected diplomatic victory, but something about the Morrigan's interest felt predatory rather than collaborative. The crystalline council member vibrated in what Marcus's translator identified as alarm. The collective has never requested exception to protocols in 900 years of council membership. This is highly irregular, yet within our rights, the Morrigan representative countered smoothly, unless the council wishes to revise the autonomy accords. A tense silence followed. Marcus understood enough about council politics to recognize a power play when he saw one. The Morrigan were using humanity as a piece in some larger game. The Arbiter's skin pulsed with rapid color changes before settling into a formal pattern. The request is noted. The human representative will be allowed private consultation with their government regarding this matter. Marcus bowed slightly. The delegation from Earth appreciates the Council's consideration and the Morrigan Collective's interest. We would request time to discuss these developments. As Marcus was escorted from the central platform, he caught the Morrigan representative watching him. Despite the alien physiology, he couldn't shake the feeling that it was analyzing him like a specimen, rather than a potential ally. 6 months later, the research outpost on Tau Ceti 4 was humanity's pride, a state-of-the-art scientific facility studying an Earth-like exoplanet. 300 of Earth's brightest minds worked there, including xenobiologists, climatologists, and planetary formation experts. Director Julia Reyes stood at the observation window, watching the sunset over Tau Ceti's strange double-peaked mountains. The outpost had been operating smoothly, producing valuable research while maintaining the strict environmental protocols required by the Galactic Council. "Director, we're picking up unusual readings at the perimeter," said the security chief. Thomas, his voice tense over the comm system. "Define unusual," Julia replied, already moving toward the command center. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database, and they're—" His voice cut off abruptly. Julia broke into a run. As she entered the command center, screens were flashing red with warning signals. "Status report! All communication with perimeter stations is down," a young technician reported, fingers flying over holographic controls. "Satellite imagery shows—" She stopped, face draining of color. On the main display, dark shapes were moving toward the outpost. They resembled massive insects, but with technological components integrated into their bodies. The camera feed switched to the perimeter station. What Julia saw turned her blood to ice. The station was covered in the creatures. They weren't attacking. They were systematically disassembling it piece by piece. And with horrifying precision, they were doing the same to the human personnel, not killing them, dissecting them, carefully extracting and preserving organs and tissue samples while the victims were still conscious. "Emergency protocols," Julia shouted. "Full evacuation. Get distress signals to Earth and the nearest Council outpost." But it was already too late. The facility's external doors hissed open despite lockdown commands. The creatures poured in, moving with terrible purpose and efficiency. Julia managed to seal the command center and activate the emergency beacon before they breached the final door. Her last transmission was simple. "This is Director Reyes at Tau Ceti. We are under attack by unknown hostiles. They're studying us. The door gave way. 2 weeks later, an emergency session of Earth's Unified Defense Council convened in the underground chambers beneath New Geneva. Military leaders and government officials sat in stunned silence as Admiral Eleanor Reeves presented the findings from the rescue mission to Tau Ceti. "The entire research outpost was methodically dissected," she reported, her voice carefully controlled despite the horror of what she was describing. "Both the facility itself and the personnel. Based on our analysis, the attackers were studying human biology, technology, and social structure in extreme detail." "Do we know who was responsible?" asked President Alvarez, his face grim. Admiral Reeves nodded. "The attack bears all the hallmarks of Morrigan Collective Biotech. We found trace DNA evidence confirming their involvement." "The same Morrigan who were so interested in cultural exchange at the council meeting?" asked Defense Minister Okafor. "The very same," confirmed Dr. Donovan, who sat at the far end of the table. "I've been reviewing all communications with the collective. In hindsight, their questions were focused on human physiological responses to stress, our decision-making under pressure, and our defense capabilities. They were assessing us as threats," Admiral Reeves concluded. "Or as prey," President Alvarez stood. "What's our dip?" The emergency lights bathed the Galactic Council chamber in blood-red hues. For the first time in over 3 centuries, the crisis protocols had been activated, summoning all member species to an immediate assembly. The massive hall, usually a place of measured debate, now buzzed with fear and speculation. Admiral Eleanor Reeves stood on the central platform, her naval uniform still stained with ash and blood. Behind her, the holographic display showed the ruins of Earth's orbital defense stations and the smoldering craters that had once been major cities. 3 billion dead, she stated, her voice carrying throughout the vast chamber without emotion, in the first 6 hours of the Morrigan attack on Earth and our colonies. The crystalline senior arbiter Vosthal leaned forward. Admiral Reeves, the Council extends its formal condolences for your losses. This unprovoked aggression by the Morrigan Collective violates numerous sections of the peace compact. Condolences don't resurrect the dead, Reeves replied sharply. Humanity came here seeking action, not sympathy. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many species were shocked by the humans' directness in addressing the senior arbiter. What action do you propose? Asked a representative of the Galen Federation, a coalition of amphibious species known for their diplomatic caution. The Council must unite against this clear violation of galactic law, Reeves answered. The Morrigan attacked without provocation, without declaration of intent, and targeted civilian populations first. By your own compact, this requires a unified response. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the empty section where the Morrigan representatives usually sat. Their absence spoke volumes. The collective has withdrawn all diplomatic personnel from Council space, Vosthal explained. They have sent a single communication stating that humanity represents an evolutionary imperative that requires testing through conflict. Testing? Reeves repeated incredulously. They slaughtered billions. A tall, willowy being with 6 arms, the representative of the ancient Tellus Concord, raised a long-fingered hand. Admiral, our deep surveillance networks have detected unusual activity in your solar system before communications went dark. It appears your military activated classified weapon systems previously hidden from Council observation. Would you care to explain? Reeves felt the mood in the chamber shift. The attention was no longer solely on the Morrigan's aggression, but on humanity's secret preparations. When Earth joined the Council, we agreed to transparency about our technology and capabilities, the Tellus representative continued. Concealment suggests concerning intentions. Reeves recognized the political maneuver. Some Council factions were using this opportunity to avoid confronting the Morrigan by redirecting suspicion toward humanity. With respect, Representative, Reeves replied carefully, Earth agreed to share our standard technologies. All species retain the right to classified defense systems, including the Tellus Concord's quantum disruption array hidden beneath your third moon. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Tellus representative's skin paled to translucent white. We face extinction, Reeves continued before anyone could interrupt. And now I discover that instead of unifying against a clear aggressor, this council would rather debate diplomatic technicalities while my species burns. She straightened her back, looking directly at Vosthal. Let me be clear, Earth did not come here begging for salvation. We came to give you a chance to stand on the right side of history. The Morrigan have violated your most sacred laws, and your response tells us everything we need to know about the true value of Council membership. Reeves gestured, and her aides began packing up their equipment. Humanity will handle this threat ourselves. Remember this moment when the Morrigan come for your worlds next. As she turned to leave, Vosthal's voice boomed throughout the chamber. Admiral Reeves, leaving this assembly without dismissal is a serious breach of protocol. She paused, then slowly turned back. 3 billion of my people are dead, Arbiter. Protocol died with them. The human delegation departed, leaving stunned silence in their wake. No species had ever walked out on a crisis assembly in the Council's long history. The command bunker, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, was one of the few strategic centers, still intact after the initial Morrigan assault. President Alvarez stood before the holographic war table, watching as red indicators representing Morrigan forces pushed steadily toward Earth. Status of Protocol Lazarus? He asked. General Way, the weathered head of Special Weapons Division, manipulated the display. The hidden facilities on Mars, Europa, and Titan are fully operational and undetected by Morrigan forces. The prototype fleet is ready for deployment. And our conventional forces? Admiral Reeves, newly returned from the failed Council mission, stepped forward, fighting valiantly but outmatched. The Morrigan technology superiority is even greater than we estimated. Conventional defense platforms are falling at a rate of 17% per hour. Civilian evacuations? The President asked, his voice strained. Deep shelters are at 82% capacity, reported Defense Minister Okafor. But the Morrigan are becoming more precise in targeting our population centers. They're adapting to our evasion strategies with each attack. They're studying us even as they kill us, Dr. Donovan observed grimly. The Tau Ceti attack wasn't just reconnaissance. It was their way of establishing baseline data on how we respond to threats. President Alvarez studied the tactical display for a long moment. How much time do we need to fully activate Lazarus? 24 hours minimum, General Wei answered. The prototype fleet can launch sooner, but the full strategic package requires more time. We don't have 24 hours, Admiral Reeves said flatly. At current rates, Morrigan forces will have full orbital control within 18 hours. The president's face hardened with resolve. Then we need to buy time. What's the status of Operation Backstop? General Wei tapped a command sequence, bringing up a new display showing 12 orbital platforms positioned at strategic points around Earth. The decoy fleet is ready, sir. The Morrigans still believe these are our primary defense systems. When activated, they'll present as major military assets coming online. And the real backstop? The president pressed. The EDF Intrepid and her battle group are positioned behind the lunar shadow, completely dark, Admiral Reeves reported. They're equipped with the first generation of Lazarus tech, enough to make the Morrigan believe they're facing our best forces. Will it work? Asked Defense Minister Okafor. The Morrigan are supremely confident in their technological superiority, Dr. Donovan said. They expect us to throw everything we have at them in a desperate last stand. If we make them believe backstop is that last stand, they'll commit significant resources to crush it. While their attention is diverted, Admiral Reeves continued, the Lazarus installations can complete preparations, and our real counterstrike can mobilize. President Alvarez nodded grimly. Launch Operation Backstop, and may God help us all. Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the EDF Intrepid, watching as her small fleet emerged from behind the moon. The ship hummed with energy as systems came online, broadcasting their presence loudly enough for any Morrigan sensors to detect. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, her executive officer reported. The Morrigan fleet has altered course and is moving to engage. On the main display, dozens of Morrigan vessels, sleek, organic-looking ships that resembled massive insects, turned toward the human fleet. They moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism rather than individual vessels. Remember, people, Reeves addressed her crew, our job isn't to win this battle. It's to make them commit fully to destroying us. Every minute we survive buys time for Earth. The crew understood the implicit message. This was likely a one-way mission. Morrigan fleet accelerating, Tactical reported. Their formation suggests they're preparing for their standard engulf and devour approach. Reeves allowed herself a small smile. That's right. Focus on us. Commit everything. She turned to her weapons officer. Prepare to deploy the EMSL countermeasures on my mark. The electromagnetic selective emission limiters were one of the technologies kept hidden from Council observation. They wouldn't stop the Morrigan for long, but they would force the aliens to adapt, and in doing so, reveal more about their technological capabilities. Morrigan vessels entering optimal EMSL range, Tactical announced. Deploy countermeasures, Reeves ordered, and prepare for immediate evasive action. The space between the fleets lit up with invisible electromagnetic pulses. On the display, several Morrigan ships faltered, their biological mechanical systems temporarily disrupted. Direct hit on 43% of enemy vessels. Tactical reported with surprised enthusiasm. They weren't expecting that. Don't celebrate yet, Reeves cautioned. This is just the opening move. As if to confirm her warning, the Morrigan fleet quickly reorganized. The affected ships withdrew to the rear while undamaged vessels moved forward, their formation shifting like a living thing adapting to injury. They're learning already, Reeves observed. Prepare secondary countermeasures. For the next hour, the human fleet engaged in a dangerous dance with the numerically and technologically superior Morrigan forces. Each time the humans deployed a new weapon or tactic, the Morrigan would initially falter, then rapidly adapt. The Galactic Council archives were considered the most secure repository of information in known space. Access was tightly controlled, with most species granted only limited permission to the ancient knowledge stored within its quantum memory cores. Yet somehow, a human stood in its most restricted section, Lisa Torres, Earth Intelligence Specialist moved silently through the dimly lit chamber. Her presence here violated at least 17 Council regulations. But with Earth burning under Morrigan bombardment, legal technicalities seemed irrelevant. Her target was the Evolutionary Assessment Archives, specifically, the classified files on the Morrigan Collective. For a species so secretive, the Council must have accumulated significant intelligence during their 9 centuries of membership. "Security scan approaching," whispered her partner, James, through the encrypted comm link. He monitored the archive systems from a maintenance tunnel 3 levels below. 15 seconds. Lisa froze, activating the adaptive camouflage woven into her suit. The technology, another human development kept hidden from Council observation, bent light around her, rendering her nearly invisible to standard sensors. The scan passed, its energy field washing over her without triggering alarms. "You're clear," James confirmed. "But hurry. I can't block the next scan rotation." Lisa moved to the central terminal and connected a quantum decryption device. The Council's security was formidable, but humanity had prepared for this contingency. The device began extracting data on the Morrigan's biological, psychological, and social structures. "Got it," she reported minutes later. "Complete historical and biological profile of the collective, including their classified military assessments. Anything immediately useful?" James asked. Lisa scanned the translated data, her eyes widening. "Yes. The Morrigan aren't a natural hive mind, they're artificially connected. Their ancestors were individual sentients who engineered a biological network to unify their consciousness. And the system has weaknesses." "Time's up," James warned. "Extraction team is in position." Lisa disconnected her device and moved toward the rendezvous point. As she navigated the archives, she realized the implications of what she'd discovered. The Morrigan's greatest strength, their perfect unity, might actually be their greatest vulnerability. The Morrigan Sovereign Cluster gathered in their sacred communion chamber aboard the command ship. 27 primary nodes, the highest-ranking members of their species, joined their consciousness in direct neural link, allowing them to experience unified thought without the slight delay of their standard hive communication. "The human resistance has been crushed," declared the first node, neural pathways pulsing with satisfaction. "Their primary defense fleet has been destroyed. Earth will be ours within 2 planetary rotations. The humans demonstrated unexpected technological capabilities," noted the analysis node, sharing visual data of the battle. "Their electromagnetic countermeasures temporarily disrupted our ship functions." A primitive defense, dismissed the war node. "We adapted within 7.3 minutes. Their technology, while surprisingly advanced for their development stage, remains inferior." "What of their final defense?" asked the caution node, whose function was to identify overlooked threats. "The destruction of their vessels was unusually convenient. Self-destruction rather than capture is consistent with their psychological profile," the analysis node responded. "Humans demonstrate irrational attachment to concepts of honor and sacrifice." The first node pulsed agreement. "Prepare colonization protocols for the Earth system. The biomass will provide excellent cultivation medium for our larval stages." First node interrupted the communication node suddenly. "We are receiving a directed transmission from a human vessel." Surprise rippled through the unified consciousness. "Impossible," declared the war node. "All their military vessels have been destroyed or disabled. The transmission origin is unclear," the communication node admitted. "It appears to be coming from multiple locations simultaneously." "A deception," the caution node warned. "Humans are known for strategic misdirection." "Allow the transmission," ordered the first node. "Let us hear their surrender terms." The communion chamber's central display activated, showing a human female in a military uniform. The Sovereign Cluster recognized her as the commander from the recently destroyed fleet. "This is Admiral Eleanor Reeves of Earth Defense Forces," she stated without preamble. "I am broadcasting to the Morrigan collective leadership with a final opportunity to cease hostilities and withdraw from Earth space." The Sovereign Cluster vibrated with amusement, the emotion flowing freely through their shared neural pathways. "The human offers terms while standing amid the ruins of their defenses," the war node commented, derisively. "Your attack on Earth and our colonies constitutes an act of war under both Council law and universal principles of sovereignty," Admiral Reeves continued. We have attempted 37 separate diplomatic communications since your unprovoked aggression began. This is our final attempt at peaceful resolution. The first node moved forward, activating the response channel. Human, your species has been measured and found wanting. Your destruction is not personal, it is the natural order. Strong species survive, weak species perish. You have 20 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally. Those who submit will be preserved for study. Admiral Reeves showed no reaction to the threat. Our analysis of Morrigan biology and social structure is complete, she replied evenly. We understand now what you truly are, and how you function. A ripple of unease passed through the Sovereign cluster. The human attempts psychological warfare, the war node declared, but uncertainty tainted the thought. We know about the unification plague that nearly destroyed your species 4,000 years ago. Reeves continued. We know how your ancestors desperately engineered the neural network that connected your consciousness to survive. We know about the primary node vulnerabilities and the cascade failure risks. Alarm spread through the Sovereign cluster. This information was deeply classified, known only to the highest echelons of their society and a handful of ancient council members. How did they obtain this data? Demanded the caution node. It doesn't matter, the war node responded. They can do nothing with this information. Their weapons cannot reach us. Admiral Reeves seemed to hear the unspoken conversation. You believe your technological superiority makes you invincible. That same arrogance has been the downfall of every empire in human history. Her image flickered slightly as she leaned closer to the camera. This is your final warning. Withdraw from Earth space immediately, or face the consequences of your actions. The first node severed the connection with a dismissive gesture, a desperate bluff from a dying species. Accelerate the assault timeline. Begin the final bombardment of their primary population centers. As the Sovereign cluster dissolved their communion, returning to their individual command functions, none noticed the brief fluctuation in their neural network, a millisecond of instability in the usually perfect hive connection. Deep within an asteroid at the edge of the solar system, Admiral Reeves ended the transmission to the Morrigan command ship. Around her, the hidden command center of Operation Lazarus hummed with activity. The facility, built in secret over the past 5 years, represented humanity's ultimate contingency plan. They rejected the peace offer. As expected, she announced to the assembled team of military officers and scientists. Did they take the bait? Asked Commander Jackson Walsh, leader of the first strike team. The transmission carried the embedded signal package, confirmed Dr. Ananya Sharma, head of the Neurological Warfare Division. Our analysis of the archive's data was correct. Their hive mind uses quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication, but the biological receivers in their brains are vulnerable to specific frequency patterns. On the main display, a complex model of the Morrigan neural network appeared, with small disturbances beginning to propagate through the system. The signal won't disable them, Dr. Sharma explained, but it created a microsecond desynchronization in their network. Just enough for the Trojan to slip through their mental defenses. How long until it takes effect? Reeves asked. It's not designed for immediate impact, Dr. Sharma replied. The Trojan mimics their natural thought patterns, gradually introducing subtle cognitive conflicts. They won't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Reeves turned to the operational display showing the positions of Earth's hidden forces. What's the status of our strike teams? Strike Team Alpha is in position near the Morrigan supply lines, Commander Walsh reported. The ships are running silent with quantum stealth engaged. The Morrigans still have no idea these vessels exist. Lieutenant Amara Okafor, commander of Strike Team Bravo, stepped forward. My team has successfully infiltrated the Morrigan communication relay at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. We're ready to implement the Cascade Error protocols on your command. And Strike Team Charlie? Reeves asked. General Way nodded grimly. The diplomatic vessel is prepared. The peace proposal package is ready for delivery directly to the Morrigan homeworld. A peace proposal? The Galactic Council emergency chamber had been in continuous session for 48 hours. Representatives from across the galaxy watched in stunned silence as the tactical displays showed the unprecedented events unfolding in the human solar system. This cannot be happening, whispered the Tellus representative, 6 arms trembling as new data streamed in. It defies all strategic models. Senior Arbiter Vosthal stared at the displays, crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated profound distress. The humans were supposed to be defeated. The Morrigan assault force was overwhelming. And yet, observed the ancient Zactyl representative, a being of pure quantum consciousness housed in an obsidian sphere, we are witnessing something previously unthinkable. The systematic dismantling of the Morrigan collective military by a supposedly inferior species. The central display showed real-time updates from observers at the edges of the human solar system. The Morrigan fleet, once the most feared military force in the known galaxy, was in disarray. Their ships moved erratically, firing at phantom targets or in some cases at each other. How? Demanded Vosthal, turning to the Council's Military Assessment Division. Explain this. The division leader, a being evolved for analytical processing, stepped forward. Our preliminary analysis suggests a multi-vector attack strategy of unprecedented sophistication. The humans are not engaging in conventional warfare. They are attacking the Morrigan's command structure, communication systems, and supply lines simultaneously with surgical precision, but the Morrigan technological advantage, began the Tellus representative, is irrelevant if they cannot effectively deploy it, interrupted the division leader. The humans have identified and exploited critical weaknesses in the Morrigan operational structure. They are not trying to match the Morrigan's firepower. They are simply preventing them from using it effectively. A new alert sounded as fresh data arrived. The main display shifted to show the Morrigan homeworld. We are detecting massive energy fluctuations across the Morrigan central planetary defense grid, reported a technical analyst. Their primary defense systems are cycling on and off in random patterns. How is this possible? Vosthal demanded. The humans have no ships anywhere near the Morrigan home system. The division leader's expression shifted to one of reluctant admiration. They don't need ships. They've somehow infected the Morrigan neural network itself. The humans aren't just fighting the Morrigan fleet, they're fighting the Morrigan consciousness. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. The Morrigan had evolved, or rather engineered themselves, into a unified consciousness, giving them incredible advantages in coordination and response time. But the humans had turned that strength into a catastrophic vulnerability. We should intervene, suggested one representative nervously. Before this escalates further, intervene how? Asked the Zactyl representative, its voice resonating directly in the minds of all present. And on whose behalf? The Council declined to assist humanity when the Morrigan attacked them unprovoked. What ethical basis would we have for intervening now that the humans are defending themselves effectively? But the Morrigan are a Council member species, protested Vosthal. Who violated our most sacred principles, the Zacatl countered. The humans offered peace 37 times before and during this conflict. Each offer was rejected. By our own laws, they are entitled to self-defense. The debate was interrupted by an urgent communication. On the main display appeared a human face, Admiral Eleanor Reeves. Galactic Council, she began without preamble. This is Admiral Reeves of Earth Defense Forces. I am transmitting to inform you that in approximately 30 minutes, the Morrigan Sovereign Cluster will likely initiate their planetary self-destruction protocols. We are attempting to prevent this outcome, but their leadership appears willing to destroy their own civilization rather than accept defeat. Shock rippled through the council chamber. Admiral, Vosthal responded, what evidence do you have of this claim? We have penetrated the Morrigan command communications, Reeves replied matter-of-factly. The first node has ordered preparation of the Genesis reversal devices on their homeworld and major colonies. These planet-killer weapons were developed in violation of Council prohibitions, I might add. The Military Assessment Division leader quickly confirmed. Energy readings consistent with prohibited mass destruction technology are indeed detected on the Morrigan homeworld. We request that the Council evacuate any observation posts or diplomatic personnel from Morrigan space immediately, Reeves continued. We are doing everything possible to prevent this outcome, but you should be prepared for the worst. Admiral, Vosthal asked carefully, what exactly have you done to the Morrigan? Our observations indicate some form of attack on their neural network. For the first time, a hint of emotion, something like grim satisfaction, crossed Reeves's face. We studied them, Arbiter, just as they studied us at Tau Ceti. The difference is that we learned the right lessons. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. The Morrigan Sovereign Cluster was in chaos. The 27 primary nodes, once united in perfect harmony, now struggled to maintain neural cohesion. Their thoughts, normally flowing as one consciousness, had become fragmented and contradictory. The disruption is spreading throughout the network, reported the analysis node, its neural patterns showing signs of strain. 63% of secondary nodes are experiencing synchronization failures. How is this possible? Demanded the first node, but even its dominant thought patterns were becoming difficult to maintain. Our neural security is absolute. Human transmission, suggested the caution. It must have carried some form of infection. Vector, impossible, insisted the war node. Our biological receivers cannot be compromised by external signals. But the evidence was undeniable. Throughout the Morrigan fleet, coordination was breaking down. Ship commanders accustomed to receiving perfect instructions through the hive mind found themselves isolated, forced to make individual decisions for the first time in generations. New contact, reported a sensor officer suddenly. Multiple human vessels decloaking throughout our formation. On the command center's displays, dozens of sleek black ships appeared as if from nowhere. Unlike the conventional human vessels destroyed earlier in the conflict, these ships moved with uncanny precision, targeting specific nodes in the Morrigan fleet. Unknown weapon signatures, reported another officer, panic evident in their normally controlled voice. They're not targeting our hulls or shield generators, they're targeting our neural transmitter arrays. The first node watched in growing horror as the human ship systematically disabled the technology that maintained the Morrigan hive connection across their fleet. Ship after ship fell into neural isolation, their crews suddenly cut off from the collective consciousness that had guided them their entire lives. Launch all reserves, ordered the first node. Destroy those human vessels at all costs. But the order failed to propagate properly through the increasingly fragmented neural network. Some ships received garbled instructions, others received nothing at all. The humans know exactly what they're doing, realized the analysis node, a revelation that spread like poison through what remained of their shared consciousness. They've mapped our entire command structure. They know which nodes to isolate first. Impossible, the first node insisted again, but with diminishing conviction. Their technology is inferior. Their species is younger. They cannot have developed this level of capability. And yet, observed the caution node, they are defeating us with precision and efficiency that even we cannot match. The truth was becoming undeniable. The humans had never attempted to match the Morrigan's technological advantage. Instead, they had identified the critical weakness in the Morrigan's evolutionary strategy, their absolute dependence on perfect neural synchronization, and exploited it with surgical precision. We underestimated them, the analysis node concluded, its thought patterns growing more independent as the hive connection continued to deteriorate. We saw their biological adaptability as primitive. We failed to recognize that same adaptability extends to their strategic thinking. The first node made a decision that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. Initiate the Genesis reversal protocols, it commanded. If we cannot prevail, we will not submit. Alarm spread through what remained of the collective consciousness. First node, protested the caution node. That would destroy our entire civilization. Billions of our kind on the homeworld and colonies would perish. Better extinction than subjugation, the first node replied coldly. This is the evolutionary imperative. The strong survive, the weak perish. If we cannot be strong, we should not exist. As the command was reluctantly transmitted to the homeworld, the first node did not realize that this final decision was exactly what the humans had predicted and prepared for. Admiral Reeves stood in the Lazarus Command Center, watching as Operation Checkmate unfolded with mathematical precision. Around her, the command staff monitored the status of each strike team as they methodically disabled the Morrigan fleet's ability to function as a cohesive force. The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Eleanor Reeves finished presenting the evidence. The holograms showing the Morrigan self-destruction attempt faded, leaving the vast amphitheater in contemplative darkness before the standard lighting gradually returned. 2,000 species represented, each with their own stake in galactic stability. None had expected to witness a judgment day quite like this, where humanity stood not as the accused, but as the unexpected architects of an impossible victory. Senior Arbiter Vosthal's crystalline form shifted colors as he processed the evidence. The massive being finally spoke, voice resonating through the perfect acoustics of the chamber. "The evidence presented is irrefutable," Vosthal admitted reluctantly. "The Morrigan Collective initiated hostilities without provocation. Humanity attempted diplomatic resolution 37 times before and during the conflict, and when forced to defend themselves, humans specifically targeted military assets while minimizing civilian casualties." Murmurs spread through the assembly. Many species had assumed the worst when reports emerged of the Morrigan defeat, that humans had employed some horrific weapon of mass destruction. The truth was more unsettling: surgical precision that revealed strategic brilliance beyond what should have been possible for such a young species. Furthermore, Vosthal continued, evidence confirms the Morrigan leadership attempted species-level suicide, rather than accept defeat, an action prevented by human intervention. The ancient Zicatl representative moved its obsidian sphere forward. "The Council must acknowledge an uncomfortable truth. We failed in our primary mandate, to prevent interspecies conflict and protect member worlds. When the Morrigan attacked Earth, this body chose inaction. Humanity was forced to defend itself without Council support." Uncomfortable shifting rippled through the assembled representatives. The criticism was justified but unwelcome. "What of the unauthorized technologies employed by the humans?" demanded the Tellus representative, 6 arms moving in agitation. "They concealed military capabilities from Council observation." Admiral Reeves stepped forward again. "With respect, Representative, Council regulations permit classified defense systems proportionate to legitimate security threats. Given that the Council failed to act when Earth was attacked, our precautions were clearly justified." "The point is valid," acknowledged Vosthal reluctantly. "But it raises concerning questions about human capabilities that were previously unknown." "More concerning," interjected a representative from the Galan Federation, "is how effectively they deployed those capabilities. The Morrigan possessed technological superiority in every conventional metric, yet the humans identified and exploited weaknesses with unprecedented precision." "They did not outfight the Morrigan," observed the Zicatl representative, its consciousness radiating directly into the minds of all present. "They outthought them. This is significant." The chamber fell silent again as the implications settled over the assembly. Humanity had not merely survived against overwhelming odds, they had revealed a level of strategic thinking that few species could match. For some Council members, this was more worrying than any weapon humanity might have concealed. Vosathal's crystalline form shifted through a formal pattern of colors before he spoke again. "This Council has reached a decision. Humanity is formally cleared of all charges relating to the conflict with the Morrigan Collective. The evidence clearly establishes their actions as legitimate self-defense." Admiral Reeves nodded acknowledgement, but remained silent, sensing more to come. "However," Vosthal continued, "in light of the unexpected capabilities revealed during this conflict, the Council imposes monitoring restrictions on human military development for a period of 50 standard cycles. Earth will permit Council observation teams at all major military installations." Reeves had expected this. "Earth accepts the Council's judgment," she replied evenly, "with the condition that all observation be conducted by neutral species with no direct ties to the Morrigan or their allies." Vosthal's colors flashed briefly, surprise at the human's quick countermove. "Agreed," he conceded. "The observation teams will be drawn from neutral members." "And what of the Morrigan?" Reeves asked, her voice carrying a subtle edge. "Their unprovoked aggression cost 3 billion human lives. Their leadership developed prohibited planet-killer weapons. Will they face no consequences?" The Council chamber grew tense. The Morrigan had been founding members of the Council, with deep alliances among several powerful factions. After a long pause, Vosthal answered, "The Morrigan Collective will be placed under special oversight. Their military capabilities will be significantly reduced, and reparations to Earth will be required." Reeves nodded, knowing this was as much as could be expected. The Council would never impose truly severe penalties on one of its oldest members, regardless of their actions. But it was enough. Earth had survived, and humanity's position in galactic politics was now secure. "This Council session is concluded," Vosthal announced. As the assembly began to disperse, Admiral Reeves was approached by an unexpected figure, a representative of the Luminal Concord, a coalition of so-called minor species that had long existed in the shadow of the Council's dominant powers. "Admiral," the representative greeted her, speaking quietly. "My government wishes to express profound respect for how humanity conducted itself during this conflict." "Thank you," Reeves replied, somewhat surprised. The Luminal Concord rarely engaged directly with newer species. "We would like to discuss a potential alliance," the representative continued, even more quietly. "Many smaller species have long endured difficult relationships with the dominant council powers. Your people have demonstrated qualities we find admirable." Reeves understood immediately. The galactic political landscape was shifting before her eyes. Humanity's unexpected victory had created new possibilities and new dangers. "Earth would welcome such discussions," she replied carefully. As the luminal representative departed, Reeves noticed Vosthal watching the exchange with obvious concern. The senior arbiter had already recognized the implications. Humanity might become a rallying point for the Council's less powerful members. 6 months later, the Earth Reconstruction Council convened in the newly rebuilt United Nations headquarters in Geneva. The massive dome of the chamber, constructed with materials provided by allied species, filtered sunlight into a warm glow over the assembled representatives. President Alvarez stood at the central podium, addressing the planetary leadership and invited alien dignitaries. "Today marks both an ending and a beginning," he declared. "The reconstruction of our major cities is now 60% complete. The terraforming of Mars has been accelerated with Luminal Concord assistance, and our defensive capabilities have been enhanced through technological exchanges with our new allies." Admiral Reeves, seated among the military leadership, listened with satisfaction. The president didn't mention the most classified developments, the continued advancement of the Lazarus technologies and the establishment of hidden research facilities beyond Council observation range, but "Our greatest achievement," the president continued, "is not physical reconstruction. It is the transformation of humanity's place in the galaxy. 6 months ago, we were an isolated species fighting for survival. Today, we stand at the center of a growing alliance of civilizations who share our values of independence and cooperation." Seated in the diplomatic section, Dr. Marcus Donovan observed the Morrigan representative, not a member of the old sovereign cluster but a new type of delegate. Since the neural network disruption, Morrigan society had undergone radical changes. The rigid hive structure had given way to a more individualistic organization, with millions of Morrigan experiencing independent thought for the first time in countless generations. The Morrigan representative caught Donovan's gaze and inclined its head slightly, a gesture it had learned from humans. The relationship between their species remained complex, a mixture of cautious cooperation and deep-seated wariness. The peace was fragile, built on the foundation of mutual respect that often follows between survivors of a devastating conflict. After the formal proceedings concluded, Admiral Reeves found herself in a quiet conversation with the ancient Zekitl representative, whose obsidian sphere hovered at eye level. "You have concerns about the council restrictions," the Zekitl observed, its consciousness communicating directly to her mind. "The monitoring is more symbolic than effective," Reeves replied candidly. "We both know Earth will develop whatever technologies we deem necessary for our security." "Indeed," the ancient being acknowledged, "just as we both know the Council's true concern is not your weapons but your strategies." The Morrigan were defeated not by superior firepower, but by superior understanding. Reeves nodded. "They studied our biology at Tau Ceti but failed to study our history. Humans have always excelled at asymmetric warfare, at finding ways to defeat technologically superior opponents, a trait that makes your kind simultaneously fascinating and disturbing. To many council species," the Zekitl observed, "the oldest among us have seen civilizations rise and fall. Those with the greatest technological advantages often become complacent, unable to adapt when circumstances change.